Welcome to a new voyage with timeless facts. Today we sail into the forgotten seas of ancient mariners, building on tales of coastal tribes, river navigators, and island pioneers from past stories. This journey explores the maritime legacies of lost cultures across the globe. The coastal dunes of prehistoric Morocco reveal the Capsian people's seafaring past. Long ago, they crafted reed boats, fishing along the Atlantic shore. Their sights, with shell middens and bone harpoons, suggest a life tied to the sea. Over time, they declined, possibly due to desert expansion, their boats lost to the sands. Cave finds include fishhooks and weights. Trade with the Sahara brought ochre. What buried this coastal culture? Shifting to the Baltic Sea, the Narva culture navigated with dugouts, trading amber along Estonia's coast. Their sites with pottery and net sinkers indicate a fishing society. Eventually, they waned, perhaps with colder climates, their boats abandoned. Lake beds hold their paddles. Trade with Finland brought flint. What chilled this sea life? In the Gulf of Alaska, the Kodiak people sailed with kayaks, hunting seals along Kodiak Island. Their villages with stone lamps suggest a cold water existence. Over time, they evolved, their early crafts refined with Russian contact. Coastal caves hold their harpoons. Trade with the interior brought copper. What shaped this northern trade? The Sea of Marmara saw the Trojan culture trade with hide boats, shipping wine along Turkey's coast. Their sites with pottery line the shores. Eventually, they faded, possibly with Hittite invasions, their boats lost. Sea caves hold their anchors. Trade with Greece brought olive oil. What ended this wine trade? Along the Gulf of Tonkin, the Pung Nguyen culture fished with canoes, trading jade along Vietnam's north coast. Their sites with stone tools suggest a riverine life. Over time, they declined, possibly with floods, their boats abandoned. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade with China brought rice. What washed away this jade trade? In the Celtic Sea, the grooved ware people sailed with coracles, trading flint along Wales coast. Their sites with pottery line the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with Bronze Age shifts, their boats lost. Caves hold their weights. Trade with Scotland brought gold. What faded this sea network? The South Atlantic hosted the Tupi people, navigating with dugouts, trading manioc along Brazil's coast. Their villages with shell tools suggest a marine focus. Over time, they declined, perhaps with Portuguese arrival, their boats abandoned. Coastal caves hold their hooks. Trade with the interior brought feathers. What changed with the outsiders? In the Gulf of Bothnia, the Somushiervi culture fished with log boats, gathering fish along Finland's coast. Their sites with bone points indicate a water life. Eventually they waned, possibly with forest growth, their boats lost. Lake beds hold their nets. Trade with Sweden brought fur. What moved this culture inland? The Mediterranean's Pallada culture sailed with hide boats, trading copper along Italy's north coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Over time they declined, possibly with floods, their boats abandoned. Sea caves hold their anchors. Trade with the Alps brought tin. What ended this metal trade? The North Pacific saw the Nucha Nulth people fish with cedar canoes, trading along Vancouver Island. Their sites with whale bones suggest a whaling society. Over time, they evolved, their early crafts refined. Coastal caves hold their weights. Trade with the interior brought obsidian. What transformed this sea life? In the Gulf of California, the Cochimi people hunted with rafts, gathering clams along Baja's coast. Their camps with shell tools lined the shores. Eventually, they declined, possibly with missionization, their rafts abandoned. Caves hold their points. Trade brought turquoise. What altered this desert sea trade? The East China Sea's Yangshao people sailed with rafts, trading millet along China's Yellow River. Their sites with pottery indicate a riverine focus. Over time, they declined, possibly with floods, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade brought jade. What ended this river trade? The Caribbean's Igneri people used dugouts, trading cassava along the Lesser Antilles. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with new arrivals, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their hooks. Trade with Trinidad brought shells. What faded this island life? The Black Sea's Cucuteni Tripilia culture traded with rafts, shipping salt along Romania's coast. Their sites with pottery lined the shores. Eventually, they declined, possibly with invasions, their boats lost. Riverbeds hold their weights. Trade brought flint. What ended this salt trade? The Atlantic's linear pottery people sailed with dugouts, trading flint along Germany's coast. Their sites with tools suggest a water life. Over time, they waned, possibly with farming shifts, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their weights.
Trade brought amber.
What fated this coastal voyage? The Persian Gulf's al-Kaiwain culture traded with boats shipping pearls along the UAE coast. Their sites with tombs lined the shores. Eventually, they faded, possibly with desert growth, their ports buried. Sand holds their jaws. Trade brought copper. What sank this pearl trade? The Mediterranean's Monte Claro culture sailed with hide boats, trading obsidian along Sardinia's coast. Their sites with pottery lined the shores. Over time they declined, possibly with drought, their boats lost. Sea caves hold their tools.
Trade with Corsica brought grain.
What ended this island trade? The North Atlantic saw the Sakak culture hunt with kayaks, targeting seals along Greenland's coast. Their sites with microblades indicate a cold life. Eventually they faded, possibly with climate shifts, their boats abandoned. Ice holds their points. Trade with Canada brought ivory. What chilled this icy voyage? The Gulf of Thailand's non-Nokta culture fished with canoes, trading bronze along Thailand's northeast coast. Their sites with pottery suggest a marine focus. Over time they declined, possibly with metal scarcity, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade with Laos brought jade. What ended this bronze trade? The East Pacific hosted the Kunkaicha people, sailing with rafts, trading shells along Peru's coast. Their camps with tools lined the shores. Eventually they waned, possibly with desertification, their rafts abandoned. Caves hold their weights. Trade with the highlands brought llama wool. What dried up this sea life? The Caribbean's Chacoid people used dugouts, trading cotton along Hispaniola's coast. Their sites with shells suggest a water life. Over time they declined, possibly with European contact, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their hooks.
Trade with Puerto Rico brought gold.
What fated this island trade? The Black Sea's Usatovo culture traded with rafts, shipping copper along Ukraine's coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually they waned, possibly with invasions, their boats lost. Riverbeds hold their weights. Trade brought gold.
What ended this river trade?
The Atlantic's Horgan culture sailed with logboats, trading flint along Switzerland's lakes. Their sites with pottery suggest a water life. Over time they declined, possibly with climate shifts, their boats abandoned. Lakes hold their hooks.
Trade brought amber.
What fated this lake trade? The Persian Gulf's Shimal culture traded with boats, shipping dates along the UAE coast. Their sites with tombs lined the shores. Eventually they faded, possibly with desert expansion. Their ports buried. Sand holds their jaws. Trade brought diorite. What sank this trade network?
As the seas expand, we trace the voyages of Capsian,
Narva Konyag Trojan Fung Nguyen,
Gruvedware Tupi Suomusjärvi Polada,
Nucha Nolth Kochimi Yangshao Igneri Kukuteni Traipilia,
Linear Pottery Al-Kaiwain Monte Claro Sakak Non Noktha, Kunkaicha, Chicoid, Usatovo, Horgan, and Shimal each ripple a story in the vast ocean of lost maritime history.
The coastal cliffs of prehistoric Ireland unveil a maritime enigma. Around 3500 BCE, the Neolithic people of the Boyne Valley launched coracles, small round boats made from hides stretched over wicker. Their sites near the River Boyne yield flint tools and fish bones, suggesting fishing and short coastal trips. Megalithic tombs like Newgrange, aligned with solstices, may have guided their voyages.
By 2500 BCE, they shifted to farming, their boats abandoned as land became central.
Bog finds preserve wicker frames and paddles. Trade with Britain brought axe heads. What turned these river navigators to the soil? Moving to the Yellow Sea, the Hongshan culture emerged by 3500 BCE, sailing reed rafts along China's northeast coast. Their jade carvings and pig burials indicate a society with maritime ties, their boats inferred from coastal middens. By 2000 BCE, they declined, possibly due to drought or overharvesting. Shell heaps and net sinkers mark their fishing grounds. Trade with inland tribes brought turquoise. What dried up this coastal life? In the Gulf of Guinea, the Nok culture navigated by 1000 BCE with dugouts along Nigeria's coast. Their terracotta figures and iron tools suggest trade networks, their boats reconstructed from riverbank timbers. By 300 CE, they faded, possibly due to climate shifts or disease. Coastal caves hold their pottery and hooks. Trade with the Sahara brought salt. What ended this riverine trade? The Sea of Japan saw the Okhotsk culture by 500 CE, whaling with umiaks. Their sites along Hokkaido yield harpoon points and seal bones, their boats built from driftwood. By 1000 CE, they waned with Ainu expansion, their villages deserted. Ice caves preserve their tools.
Trade with Siberia brought fur.
What pushed this whaling society aside? Along the Coral Sea, the Torres Strait Islanders sailed by 2000 BCE with outrigger canoes. Their rock art depicts turtles and fish, their boats carrying trade goods like obsidian. By 1000 CE, they thrived, but early European contact disrupted them by 1800 CE. Cave sites hold shell ornaments.
Trade with New Guinea brought canoes.
What changed with the outsiders' arrival? In the Adriatic Sea, the Terramare culture emerged by 1500 BCE, trading with hide boats. Their stilt villages along Italy's Po River show fishing and commerce, their boats inferred from wooden planks.
By 1200 BCE, they declined, possibly due to floods or invasions.
Lake beds preserve their nets.
Trade with Mycenae brought bronze.
What washed away this water culture?
The Gulf of Alaska hosted the Ocean Bay people by 3000 BCE, fishing with dugouts.
Their sites on Kodiak Island yield stone tools and salmon bones, their boats built from cedar. By 1000 BCE, they evolved into the kachamak, their early crafts abandoned.
Coastal caves hold their weights.
Trade with the interior brought jade. What transformed this fishing life? In the Bay of Bengal, the Pandu culture sailed by 1000 BCE, trading rice and spices.
Their ports along India's east coast show docks with stone anchors. By 200 CE, they merged with other groups, their sites overgrown.
Riverbanks hold their jars. Trade with Sri Lanka brought pearls.
What blended this coastal trade?
The North Atlantic saw the Beaker folk by 2500 BCE, sailing from Scotland. Their boats, inferred from coastal camps, traded flint. By 2000 BCE, they spread inland, their maritime focus lost. Caves hold their tools. Trade with Ireland brought gold. What moved this culture ashore? In the South China Sea, the Baksun culture navigated by 2000 BCE with rafts. Their sites along Vietnam's north coast yield stone adzes and shell middens. By 1000 BCE, they declined, possibly due to sea level rise. Caves hold their hooks. Trade with China brought rice. What submerged this early life? The Gulf of St. Lawrence welcomed the maritime archaic by 5000 BCE, hunting with kayaks. Their sites along Newfoundland yield harpoons and walrus ivory. By 1500 BCE, they faded, possibly due to cooling climates. Ice preserves their points. Trade with Labrador brought chert. What chilled this northern voyage? The Arabian Sea's Indus Valley offshoots by 2000 BCE sailed with reed boats. Their sites along Gujarat show trade ports. By 1500 BCE, they waned with Harappan decline. Mud holds their anchors.
Trade brought cotton.
What faded this sea link? In the Mediterranean, the Talayotic culture emerged by 1000 BCE, sailing from Majorca. Their stone towers and boats, inferred from art, suggest trade.
By 200 BCE, they declined with Roman rule.
Caves hold their tools. Trade with Iberia brought lead.
What ended this island trade?
The Bering Sea saw the Norton culture by 500 BCE, fishing with umiaks. Their sites along Alaska yield pottery and fish bones. By 1000 CE, they evolved into the Thule, their boats adapted. Ice holds their nets.
Trade with Asia brought iron. What evolved this coastal life? The Gulf of California's Guaycura, by 500 BCE, fished with rafts.
Their camps with shell tools line Baja California. By 1500 CE, they declined with Spanish arrival. Caves hold their weights. Trade brought obsidian. What altered this desert sea life? The East Mediterranean's Canaanites, by 1500 BCE, traded with cedar ships. Their ports like Ugarit shipped wine. By 1200 BCE, they faded with invasions. Seabeds hold their anchors.
Trade brought tin.
What sank this maritime hub? The Caribbean's Ortwiroid, by 2000 BCE, used dugouts. Their sites with tools lined Trinidad. By 500 BCE, they waned, their boats lost. Caves hold their points. Trade with Venezuela brought shells. What ended this early voyage? The Black Sea's catacomb culture, by 2500 BCE, traded with rafts. Their sites with pottery lined Crimea. By 2000 BCE, they declined, their boats abandoned. Riverbanks hold their weights.
Trade brought copper.
What faded this river trade? The Atlantic's globular amphora, by 3000 BCE, sailed with log boats. Their sites with pottery lined Poland. By 2500 BCE, they waned, their boats unused. Lakes hold their hooks. Trade brought amber. What ended this coastal life? The Persian Gulf's early Dilmun, by 4000 BCE, fished with reed boats. Their sites with shells lined Bahrain. By 3000 BCE, they evolved, their early crafts lost. Mud holds their nets. Trade brought pearls. What transformed this sea life? The Mediterranean's Ramadello, by 3000 BCE, sailed with hide boats.
Their sites with Flint line Italy. By 2000 BCE they declined, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their tools. Trade brought obsidian. What faded this early voyage? The Indian Ocean's Azania by 100 BCE traded with dhows. Their ports along Kenya shipped ivory. By 500 CE they waned with Axum's rise. Coral holds their wrecks. Trade brought gold. What shifted this trade route? The Arctic's pre-Thule by 1000 BCE used kayaks. Their sites with tools line Canada. By 500 BCE they faded, their boats lost. Ice holds their points. Trade brought ivory. What ended this icy life? The Gulf of Mexico's Marksville by 1 CE fished with canoes. Their sites with pottery line Mississippi. By 400 CE they evolved, their boats adapted. Swamps hold their nets. Trade brought shells. What changed this river life? The East China Sea's Longshan by 2500 BCE sailed with rafts. Their sites with tools line Shandong. By 1900 BCE they declined, their boats lost. Caves hold their weights. Trade brought jade. What ended this coastal trade? The Caribbean's Milicoid by 800 CE used dugouts. Their sites with shells line Haiti. By 1200 CE they waned, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their hooks. Trade brought gold. What faded this island life? The Black Sea's Sredni Stog by 4500 BCE traded with rafts. Their sites with tools line Ukraine. By 3500 BCE they spread, their boats unused. Riverbeds hold their points. Trade brought flint. What expanded this river life? The Atlantic's Seine-Oise Marne by 3000 BCE sailed with dugouts. Their sites with flint line France. By 2000 BCE they declined, their boats lost. Caves hold their weights. Trade brought shells. What ended this coastal voyage? The Persian Gulf's late Ubaid by 4000 BCE traded with boats. Their sites with pottery line Iraq. By 3500 BCE they evolved, their ports silted. Mud holds their anchors. Trade brought copper. What transformed this trade network? As the seas deepen, we trace the voyages of Boyne Valley, Hongshan, Nok Okhotsk, Torres Strait, Terra Mare, Ocean Bay, Pandu, Beaker Folk, Baxon, Maritime Archaic, Indus Valley offshoots, Talaiotic, Norton, Guaycura, Canaanites, Ortoroid, Catacomb, Globular Amphora, Early Dilmun, Remedello, Azania, Pritule, Marksville, Longshan, Melacoid, Zrednistog, Seine-Oise Marne, and Late Ubaid each swell a chapter in the saga of lost maritime souls. The coastal plains of prehistoric Indonesia reveal a hidden seafaring past. Around 2500 BCE, the Tolian people of Sulawesi crafted bamboo rafts, fishing along coral reefs. Their tools, obsidian flakes and shell knives, suggest a life tied to the sea, with middens piled with turtle bones. By 1000 BCE, they faded, possibly due to volcanic eruptions or rising seas. Cave paintings depict boats with outriggers, their lines faded but evocative. Trade with nearby islands left beads and pottery shards. What erased this island culture from the waves? Moving to the Caspian Sea, the Kura-Araxes culture emerged around 3500 BCE, navigating with reed skiffs. Their settlements along the southern shore traded obsidian and copper, their boats inferred from riverbank finds. By 2500 BCE, they shifted inland, their coastal sites buried under sediment. Pottery with wave patterns hints at a maritime focus. Fish traps and net weights suggest a thriving fishery. What drove this culture away from the water? In the Gulf of Thailand, the Ban Chiang people sailed by 2000 BCE using dugouts to trade bronze. Their villages, marked by red-painted pottery, lined the coast with harbors hinted at by shell deposits. By 500 BCE, they declined, possibly due to metal shortages or floods. Boat models found in graves show double-hulled designs. Coastal erosion swallowed their docks. What ended this Bronze Age seafaring? The North Sea's Ertebølle people, around 4000 BCE, fished with log canoes along Denmark's coast. Their shell middens, some 2 meters deep, hold oyster and mussel shells, evidence of a marine diet. By 2800 BCE, they adopted farming, their boats abandoned. Bog finds preserved paddles and hooks. Trade with Scandinavia brought flint. What turned these fishers to the land? Along the Arabian Sea, the Magan civilization thrived by 2500 BCE, shipping diorite and copper. Their ports, like al-Nar, handled ships to Mesopotamia, their hulls built with wooden pegs. By 1800 BCE, they faded, possibly due to drought. Underwater sites yield anchors and cargo jars. Trade logs mention frankincense. What dried up this maritime trade? In the Java Sea, the Dongsan culture emerged by 1000 BCE, crafting iron-hulled boats.
Their drums decorated with boat motifs suggest ritual voyages. By 100 CE, they merged with other groups, their ports silted. Riverbanks hold their anchors. Trade with China brought silk. What blended this culture into history?
The Baltic's pitted ware culture sailed by 3000 BCE with skin boats.
Their sites, rich with seal bones, line Sweden's coasts.
By 2300 BCE, they waned, possibly due to climate cooling.
Cave finds include harpoons and lines.
Trade with Finland brought amber.
What chilled this seafaring life? In the Red Sea, the Kataban people traded by 500 BCE with dhows. Their ports, like Timna, shipped spices to Rome. By 100 CE, they declined with Roman expansion. Coral reefs hold their wrecks. Coins depict ships. What shifted this spice route? The Pacific's Lapita offshoots, by 500 BCE, reached New Caledonia. Their canoes carried obsidian, their sites marked by pottery. By 200 CE, they evolved, their early ports abandoned. Cave finds include adzes. Trade with Fiji brought shells. What evolved this island network?
The Atlantic's Bellbeaker people, by 2500 BCE, sailed from Iberia.
Their boats, inferred from coastal camps, traded gold.
By 1800 BCE, they spread inland, their maritime focus lost.
Riverbeds hold their tools. Trade with Britain brought tin.
What moved this culture ashore?
In the Persian Gulf, the Berber culture, by 2000 BCE, fished with reed boats. Their settlements near Bahrain show pearl diving. By 1500 BCE, they faded with Dilmun's rise. Mudflats preserved their nets. Trade brought lapis. What sank this pearl trade? The Mediterranean's Nuragic people, by 1500 BCE, sailed from Sardinia. Their bronze ships traded obsidian. By 500 BCE, they declined with Phoenician dominance. Sea caves hold their anchors. Trade with Etruria brought wine. What overshadowed this island trade? The Indian Ocean's Malagasy early settlers, by 500 CE, used outriggers. Their sites with African crops suggest long voyages. By 1000 CE, they integrated locally, their ports lost. Coral holds their hulls. Trade brought iron. What merged this seafaring group? The Arctic's pre-Dorset, by 2500 BCE, used kayaks. Their sites, with flint tools, lined Canada's north.
By 800 BCE, they evolved, their boats abandoned.
Ice preserves their points.
Trade with Siberia brought jade.
What changed this icy life? The Gulf of California's Comcac, by 1000 BCE, fished with reed rafts. Their camps with shell tools lined the coast.
By 500 CE, they adapted, their rafts unused.
Caves hold their weights. Trade brought turquoise.
What altered this desert sea life?
The East China Sea's Hemudu offshoots, by 4000 BCE, sailed with canoes. Their sites with rice paddies show water trade. By 2500 BCE, they shifted, their boats buried. River mud holds their paddles.
Trade brought jade.
What turned this culture inland? The Caribbean's Casimiroid, by 4000 BCE, used dugouts. Their sites, with stone tools, line Hispaniola. By 2000 BCE, they faded, their boats lost. Caves hold their points.
Trade with Cuba brought shells.
What ended this early voyage? The Black Sea's Tripoli culture, by 3500 BCE, traded with rafts. Their sites with pottery line the north.
By 2500 BCE, they declined, their boats abandoned.
Riverbanks hold their weights.
Trade brought flint.
What sank this river trade? The Atlantic's funnel beaker people, by 4000 BCE, sailed with log boats. Their sites with megaliths line Germany.
By 2800 BCE, they waned, their boats unused.
Lakes hold their hooks.
Trade brought amber. What faded this coastal life?
The Persian Gulf's Jemdet Nasser, by 3000 BCE, traded with reed boats. Their sites with seals line Iraq. By 2500 BCE, they merged, their ports silted. Mud holds their jars. Trade brought copper. What blended this early trade? The Mediterranean's Castelluccio, by 2000 BCE, sailed with hide boats. Their sites with pottery line Sicily. By 1400 BCE, they declined, their boats lost. Caves hold their tools.
Trade brought obsidian.
What ended this island voyage? The Indian Ocean's Arikamedu, by 200 BCE, traded with dhows. Their sites with Roman glass line India. By 200 CE, they faded, their ports silted.
Coral holds their anchors.
Trade brought spices. What halted this coastal hub? The Arctic's independence, the Voi, by 2400 BCE, used skin boats. Their sites with microblades line Greenland. By 1800 BCE, they waned, their boats abandoned. Ice holds their points.
Trade brought ivory.
What chilled this early life?
The Gulf of Mexico's Chefuncte, by 500 BCE, fished with canoes. Their sites with pottery line Louisiana. By 1 CE they evolved, their boats unused. Swamps hold their nets. Trade brought shells. What changed this river life? The East China Sea's Dapinkeng, by 2500 BCE, sailed with rafts. Their sites with tools line Taiwan. By 1500 BCE they shifted, their boats lost. Caves hold their weights. Trade brought jade. What moved this culture inland? The Caribbean's Osteanoid, by 600 CE, used dugouts. Their sites with shells line Puerto Rico. By 1200 CE they waned, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their hooks. Trade brought gold. What faded this island trade? The Black Sea's Yamnaya, by 3000 BCE, traded with rafts. Their sites with tools line Ukraine. By 2500 BCE they spread, their boats unused. Riverbeds hold their points. Trade brought copper. What expanded this river life? The Atlantic's Artenac, by 3000 BCE, sailed with dugouts. Their sites with flint line France. By 2000 BCE they declined, their boats lost. Caves hold their weights. Trade brought shells. What ended this coastal voyage? The Persian Gulf's Manar, by 2500 BCE, traded with boats. Their sites with tombs line Oman. By 2000 BCE they faded, their ports silted. Mud holds their anchors. Trade brought diorite. What sank this trade network? As the oceans unfold, we trace the voyages of Toalian, Kura Araxes, Banqiang, Ertebülle, Magan, Dongson, Pididware, Kataban, Lapita offshoots, Belbeaker, Barbar, Nuragik, Malagasy, Pre-Dorset, Comcac, Hemudu offshoots, Casimiroid, Tripolier, Funnelbeaker, Jemdet Nasser, Castelluccio, Aricamedu, Independence Pash, Chefuncte, Dapenkeng, Osteanoid, Yamnaya, Artenac, and Annari, each tied a thread in the vast tapestry of lost maritime history. The rugged shores of prehistoric Sicily hide a maritime tale. Long ago, the Stentinello people crafted reed boats, fishing along the island's coasts. Their villages, marked by painted pottery, lined the shores, with shell middens hinting at a seafood diet. Over time they waned, possibly due to volcanic activity or new arrivals, their boats lost to the tides. Cave finds include net weights and fishhooks. Trade with Malta brought obsidian. What swept away this coastal life? Shifting to the Sea of Cortez, the Paracu people navigated with balsas, harvesting shellfish along Baja California's shores. Their camps, scattered with shell tools, suggest a nomadic sea life. Eventually they declined, perhaps with Spanish colonization, their rafts abandoned. Rock shelters hold their points. Trade with the interior brought agave. What changed this desert sea existence? In the Gulf of Aden, the Hadramaut people sailed with dhows, trading frankincense and myrrh. Their ports along Yemen's coast show stone docks and warehouses. Over time, they faded, likely with the rise of other trade powers. Their ships sunk. Coral reefs hold their anchors. Trade with India brought spices. What redirected this aromatic commerce? The Bering Strait saw the old Bering Sea culture hunt with kayaks, targeting walrus along Alaska's coast. Their sites, rich with ivory carvings, indicate a cold water life. Eventually, they evolved into the punuk, their early crafts adapted. Ice preserves their harpoons. Trade with Asia brought jade. What transformed this icy hunt? Along the Tasman Sea, the Lapita descendants in New Zealand fished with waka, crafting tools from stone. Their settlements along the North Island yield fish bones and adzes. Over time, they developed into the archaic Maori, their early boats refined. Cave sites hold their weights. Trade with the Chatham Islands brought obsidian. What evolved this island skill? In the Irish Sea, the Clyde people built currachs, trading along Scotland's west coast. Their sites with stone axes line the shores, suggesting short voyages. Eventually, they waned, possibly with Bronze Age shifts. Their boats lost. Bog finds include paddles. Trade with Ireland brought gold. What faded this sea trade? The South Pacific hosted the Marquesan people, sailing with double-hulled canoes, trading shells and taro. Their villages on the Marquesas Islands show carved tools. Over time, they declined, perhaps due to overpopulation, their crafts abandoned. Coastal caves hold their hooks. Trade with Hawaii brought feathers. What strained this island network? In the Gulf of Carpentaria, the Waipa people fished with dugouts, gathering turtle eggs along Australia's north coast. Their camps with shell middens indicate a marine focus. Eventually, they adapted with new tools, their early boats unused. Rock shelters hold their points. Trade with the interior brought ochre. What shifted this coastal life? The Mediterranean's Capo Graziano culture sailed with hide boats, trading obsidian from Lipari.
Their sites with pottery lined the Aeolian Islands.
Over time, they merged with other groups, their ports silted. Sea caves hold their anchors. Trade with Sicily brought grain. What blended this island trade? The North Sea's Maglemosian people navigated with log boats, fishing along Denmark's coasts. Their sites with bone harpoons suggest a water life. Eventually, they declined, possibly with forest growth, their boats abandoned. Lake beds hold their hooks. Trade with Norway brought flint. What moved this culture inland? In the Andaman Sea, the Jarawa people sailed with outriggers, hunting dugong along the Andaman Islands. Their camps with shell tools lined the shores. Over time, they retreated inland, their boats lost. Cave finds include points. Trade with the Nicobars brought shells. What drove this sea change? The Gulf of Oman saw the Wadi Suk people trade with wooden boats, shipping copper and dates. Their sites along the UAE coast show stone anchors. Eventually, they faded, possibly with desert expansion, their ports buried. Sand holds their jars. Trade with Mesopotamia brought textiles. What dried up this trade? The Arctic Ocean's Denbai culture hunted with kayaks, targeting seals along Alaska's north coast. Their sites with microblades indicate a cold life. Eventually, they evolved into the Norton, their boats adapted. Ice preserves their points. Trade with Siberia brought ivory. What changed this frozen hunt? The Gulf of Thailand's Kok Phanom D people fished with canoes, trading pottery along Thailand's coast. Their sites with shell ornaments suggest a marine society. Over time, they declined, possibly due to floods, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade with Cambodia brought jade.
What washed away this water life?
The East Atlantic saw the Argaric people sail with hide boats, trading copper along Spain's southeast coast. Their sites with bronze tools lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with drought, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their weights. Trade with North Africa brought gold. What ended this metal trade? In the Sea of Okhotsk, the Epijoman people fished with dugouts, gathering seaweed along Japan's north coast. Their sites with pottery indicate a coastal life. Over time, they merged with the Satsumon, their boats lost. Coastal caves hold their hooks. Trade with Hokkaido brought fur. What blended this sea culture? The Gulf of St. Lawrence's Laurentian people hunted with kayaks, targeting whales along Canada's east coast. Their sites with stone tools lined the shores. Eventually, they faded, possibly with climate shifts, their boats abandoned. Ice holds their points. Trade with the interior brought chert. What chilled this northern life? The Arabian Sea's Bactria Margiana people traded with reed boats, shipping lapis along Pakistan's coast. Their sites with seals show trade ports. Over time, they declined, possibly with river shifts, their boats lost. Mud holds their anchors. Trade with India brought cotton. What faded this sea link? In the Mediterranean, the Cetina culture sailed with log boats, trading flint along Croatia's coast. Their sites with pottery lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with invasions, their boats abandoned. Sea caves hold their tools. Trade with Italy brought obsidian. What ended this coastal voyage? The North Pacific saw the Tlingit ancestors fish with cedar canoes, trading along Alaska's panhandle. Their sites with shell beads suggest a water life. Over time, they evolved, their early crafts refined. Coastal caves hold their weights. Trade with the interior brought copper. What transformed this riverine trade? The Gulf of California's Periku, by an earlier era, fished with rafts, gathering clams along Baja's coast. Their camps with shell tools lined the shores. Eventually, they adapted, their rafts unused. Caves hold their points. Trade brought turquoise. What altered this sea life? The East China Sea's Dawenku people sailed with rafts, trading salt along China's east coast. Their sites with pottery indicate a marine focus. Over time, they declined, possibly with floods, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade brought jade. What ended this salty trade? The Caribbean's Curioid people used dugouts, trading manioc along Jamaica's coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with new arrivals, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their hooks. Trade with Cuba brought shells. What faded this island life? The Black Sea's Makeup culture traded with rafts, shipping gold along Russia's coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually, they declined, possibly with invasions, their boats lost. Riverbeds hold their weights. Trade brought copper. What ended this river trade? The Atlantic's Windmill Hill people sailed with dugouts, trading flint along England's south coast. Their sites with pottery suggest a water life. Over time, they waned, possibly with climate shifts, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their tools. Trade brought amber. What fated this coastal voyage? The Persian Gulf's hilly culture traded with boats, shipping dates along the UAE coast. Their sites with tombs line the shores. Eventually, they faded, possibly with desert growth, their ports buried. Sand holds their jars. Trade brought diorite. What sank this trade network? As the oceans widen, we trace the voyages of Stentinello, Periku, Hadramaut, Old Bering Sea, Marquesan, Clyde, Waipa, Capograziano, Maglemosian, Jarawa, Wadisuk, Denbig, Hokfanomdi, Argaric, Epijomon, Laurentian, Bactria Margiana, Cetina, Tlingit ancestors, Periku, Dawenku, Kurioid, Makop, Windmill Hill, and Hili, each current a thread in the endless weave of lost maritime legacies. The windswept shores of prehistoric Scotland hide a maritime mystery. The Albanian people crafted skin boats fishing along the Hebrides' rugged coasts. Their sites with shell middens and bone tools suggest a life tied to the sea, their boats inferred from coastal camps. Over time they declined, possibly with rising seas or new settlers, their crafts lost to the waves. Cave finds include harpoons and sinkers. Trade with Ireland brought flint. What submerged this island life? Shifting to the Gulf of Finland, the Kyukainen culture navigated with logboats, trading fur along Finland's coast. Their sites with pottery and fishing gear indicate a water-based society. Eventually, they waned, perhaps with colder climates, their boats abandoned. Lake beds hold their paddles. Trade with Sweden brought amber. What froze this sea trade? In the Gulf of California, the Seri people sailed with balsas, gathering clams along Sonora's coast. Their camps with shell tools line the shores, suggesting a nomadic sea life. Over time, they adapted, their rafts refined with modern contact. Rock shelters hold their points. Trade with the interior brought agave. What shaped this desert sea culture? The Sea of Azov saw the Yamna offshoots trade with rafts, shipping hides along Ukraine's coast. Their sites with tools suggest a riverine focus. Eventually, they faded, possibly with steppe migrations, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their weights. Trade with the Caucasus brought copper. What drifted this trade away? Along the Timor Sea, the Anindilyakwa people fished with dugouts, trading turtle shell along Australia's north coast. Their sites with shell ornaments indicate a marine life. Over time, they evolved. Their early boats adapted. Cave sites hold their hooks. Trade with Arnhem Land brought ochre. What transformed this coastal trade? In the Bay of Biscay, the Campanian people sailed with hide boats, trading flint along France's west coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually, they declined, possibly with forest growth, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their weights. Trade with Spain brought gold. What fated this sea network? The South China Sea hosted the Sa Huyn offshoots, sailing with outriggers, trading spices along Vietnam's coast. Their sites with glass beads suggest a maritime society. Over time, they merged with other groups, their ports silted. Riverbanks hold their anchors. Trade with India brought cotton. What blended this sea culture? In the Gulf of Mexico, the Troyville people fished with canoes, trading salt along Louisiana's coast. Their sites with pottery indicate a water life. Eventually, they evolved, their boats refined with new techniques. Swamps hold their nets. Trade with the Mississippi brought shells. What shaped this river trade? The Mediterranean's Malaya culture sailed with wooden boats, trading saffron along Crete's coast. Their sites with frescoes lined the shores. Over time, they declined, possibly with Minoan shifts, their boats lost. Sea caves hold their tools. Trade with Egypt brought grain. What ended this spice trade? The North Atlantic saw the Dorset people hunt with kayaks, targeting seals along Canada's Arctic coast. Their sites with microblades suggest a cold existence. Eventually, they faded, possibly with Thule arrival, their boats abandoned. Ice holds their points. Trade with Greenland brought ivory. What chilled this icy life? In the Gulf of Thailand, the Ban Chang offshoots fished with canoes, trading bronze along Thailand's coast. Their sites with red pottery indicate a marine focus. Over time, they declined, possibly with metal scarcity, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade with Laos brought jade. What ended this bronze trade? The East Pacific hosted the Chincha people, sailing with rafts, trading fish along Peru's coast. Their camps with shell tools lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with Inca expansion, their rafts abandoned. Caves hold their weights. Trade with the highlands brought wool. What conquered the sea life? The Caribbean's Taino ancestors used dugouts, trading cassava along Cuba's coast. Their sites with petroglyphs suggest a water society. Over time, they declined, possibly with Spanish arrival, their boats lost. Caves hold their hooks. Trade with Hispaniola brought gold. What faded this island trade? The Black Sea's Kemi-Oba culture traded with rafts, shipping grain along Crimea's coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with Scythian invasions their boats lost. Riverbeds hold their weights. Trade brought copper. What ended this river trade? The Atlantic's funnel beaker offshoots sailed with logboats, trading flint along Denmark's coast. Their sites with pottery suggest a water life. Over time, they declined, possibly with climate shifts, their boats abandoned. Lakes hold their hooks. Trade brought amber. What faded this coastal voyage? The Persian Gulf's Al-Qusais culture traded with boats, shipping pearls along the UAE coast. Their sites with tombs lined the shores. Eventually they faded, possibly with desert growth, their ports buried. Sand holds their jars. Trade brought copper. What sank this pearl trade? The Mediterranean's Vasilikos culture sailed with hide boats, trading olive oil along Cyprus's coast. Their sites with pottery lined the shores. Over time they declined, possibly with drought, their boats lost. Sea caves hold their tools. Trade with Anatolia brought tin. What ended this oil trade? The North Pacific saw the Haida ancestors fish with cedar canoes, trading along British Columbia's coast. Their sites with totem fragments suggest a sea life. Over time they evolved, their early crafts refined. Coastal caves hold their weights. Trade with the interior brought copper. What transformed this coastal trade? The Gulf of California's Guajiro people hunted with rafts, gathering clams along Baja's coast. Their camps with shell tools lined the shores. Eventually they declined, possibly with missionization, their rafts abandoned. Caves hold their points. Trade brought turquoise. What altered this desert sea life? The East China Sea's Kijia culture sailed with rafts, trading millet along China's northwest coast. Their sites with bronze indicate a riverine focus. Over time they declined, possibly with invasions, their boats lost. Riverbanks hold their nets. Trade brought jade. What ended this river trade? The Caribbean's Macorex people used dugouts, trading cotton along the Dominican Republic's coast. Their sites with shells suggest a water life. Over time, they declined, possibly with Taino expansion, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their hooks. Trade brought gold. What faded this island trade? The Black Sea's Novodanilovka culture traded with rafts, shipping salt along Ukraine's coast. Their sites with tools lined the shores. Eventually, they waned, possibly with steppe migrations. Their boats lost. Riverbeds hold their weights. Trade brought flint. What ended this salt trade? The Atlantic's Mickelsburg culture sailed with dugouts, trading flint along Germany's Rhine. Their sites with pottery suggest a water life. Over time, they declined, possibly with farming shifts, their boats abandoned. Caves hold their weights. Trade brought amber. What faded this river voyage? The Persian Gulf's Tel Abrak culture traded with boats, shipping dates along the UAE coast. Their sites with tombs lined the shores. Eventually they faded, possibly with desert expansion, their ports buried. Sand holds their jars. Trade brought diorite. What sank this trade network? As our journey across the seas concludes, we've explored the voyages of Obanian, Kukainen, Seri, Yamna offshoots, Anindiliaqua, Campignan, Sahuin offshoots, Troyville, Malia, Dorset, Banqiang offshoots, Chincha, Taino ancestors, Kemi-Oba, Funnel Beaker offshoots, Al-Qusais, Vasilikos, Haida ancestors, Guajiro, Kijia, Macorex, Novodanilovka, Michelsburg, and Tel Abrak, each wave a testament to lost maritime souls. If you enjoyed this epic tale, please like, comment, and subscribe to support our YouTube channel's growth and join us for more adventures through time. Today, we dive into the forgotten realms of ancient seafaring tribes, a world of mystery beyond the known lands. This 5-hour journey takes us across the prehistoric Pacific, the icy northern seas, the Mediterranean's early traders, the rivers of ancient China, and the coastal mysteries of prehistoric South America, realms where history whispers through the waves. Picture vast oceans stretching endlessly, dotted with small outrigger canoes crafted from hollowed logs. Around 1500 BCE, the Lapita people emerged in the islands of Vanuatu and Fiji. These early mariners used stone tools to shape their vessels, navigating by stars, winds, and wave patterns. They carried pigs, taro, and yams, planting new lives on distant shores. Archaeological digs reveal pottery with intricate designs, hinting at a rich culture spread across thousands of miles. Their journeys weren't random. Evidence suggests they followed bird migrations and ocean currents, reaching as far as Samoa and Tonga by 1000 BCE, shell tools and fishhooks found on remote atolls tell of a life tied to the sea. Yet their settlements often vanished, swallowed by rising tides or volcanic eruptions. What drove these pioneers to risk the unknown? Now let's shift to the northern seas. Around 1200 BCE, the Norse ancestors, long before their Viking fame, began coastal explorations along Scandinavia. They built simple boats from wood and hides, fishing and trading amber. Rock carvings depict boats with oars, a sign of early seafaring skill. These tribes faced harsh winters, yet their resilience laid the foundation for future voyages. Sites like the rock art at Alta show hunting scenes from kayaks, suggesting a deep connection to the water. By 800 BCE, they were crafting larger vessels, hinting at longer journeys. What secrets did these northern waters hold? Let's sail to the Mediterranean.
Around 3000 BCE, the Minoans of Crete launched the first known maritime civilization. Their ships, depicted in frescoes, carried olive oil and wine to Egypt and beyond. The palace at Knossos, with its harbor, was a hub of trade, its walls adorned with octopus motifs. By 1450 BCE, a massive eruption on Thera disrupted their networks, leading to decline. Underwater finds off Santorini reveal sunken ships loaded with cargo, a testament to their reach. How did this seafaring culture adapt to such catastrophe? Now we turn to the rivers of ancient China. Around 2000 BCE, the Liangzhu people navigated the Yangtze with dugout canoes. Their jade artifacts and rice paddies suggest a society reliant on water for trade and sustenance. Dams and canals found in Zhejiang show early hydraulic engineering. By 1500 BCE, their culture faded, possibly due to floods or social collapse. Riverbed excavations uncover boats preserved in mud, carrying tools and pottery. What drove their riverine empire to disappear? Let's journey to the coastal mysteries of prehistoric South America. Around 3000 BCE, the Chinchorro people of northern Chile and Peru fished along the Pacific coast. Their reed boats, reconstructed from fragments, supported a life of hunting sea lions and gathering shellfish. Mummies, some of the oldest in the world, indicate a stable community until 1000 BCE, when desertification may have forced migration. Shell middens and fishing nets hint at a sophisticated maritime existence. What caused this coastal culture to fade into the sands? As we move deeper, the Pacific calls again. By 500 BCE, the Polynesians expanded the Lapita legacy, reaching Hawaii and Easter Island. Their double-hulled canoes, capable of crossing thousands of miles, carried oral traditions of navigation. Stone statues on Easter Island, the Moai, stand as silent witnesses to their arrival. Yet by 1200 CE, overexploitation and isolation led to decline. Archaeological surveys find abandoned villages, their tools scattered. What lessons can we learn from their isolation? Back to the north, the Norse evolve. By 500 CE, they mastered longships, raiding and trading across the North Sea. Burial sites in Norway reveal boats buried with warriors, adorned with shields. Their sagas speak of exploring Iceland and Greenland, yet climate shifts by 1000 CE challenged their settlements. What resilience defined these northern seafarers? In the Mediterranean, the Phoenicians rose around 1200 BCE. From Tyre and Sidon, they sailed with cedar ships, founding Carthage and trading purple dye. Their alphabet, spread through commerce, shaped Western writing. By 300 BCE, Hellenistic conquests weakened them, their ports silted over. Shipwrecks off Lebanon hold amphorae of wine, a legacy of their voyages. How did their maritime empire influence the world? On China's rivers, the Shang dynasty by 1600 BCE refined water travel. Bronze vessels and oracle bones suggest ritual journeys along the Yellow River. By 1000 BCE, the Zhou overtook them, their canals falling into disuse. Riverbanks yield sunken boats with ceremonial goods. What rituals guided their watery realm? In South America, the Valdivia culture emerged around 3500 BCE along Ecuador's coast. Their pottery and fishing weights indicate a seafaring life, trading with inland tribes. By 1500 BCE, they vanished, possibly due to volcanic activity. Coastal caves preserve their tools, a glimpse of lost maritime skill. What erased this early coastal society? The Pacific whispers again. By 1000 CE, the Maori reached New Zealand, bringing Polynesian navigation to new heights. Their waka canoes, carved with spirals, supported war and fishing. But by 1800 CE, European contact disrupted their ways. Abandoned bus sites tell of their resilience. What changed with the outsiders' arrival? The Norse saga continues. By 1000 CE, Leif Erikson reached Vinland, possibly North America. Their settlements, like Lanso Meadows, show timber homes and boat repairs.
By 1400 CE, they withdrew, likely due to harsh winters.
What drove them back to the sea? The Mediterranean saw the Greeks by 1200 BCE. Their triremes dominated trade and war, linking Crete to Athens. By 300 BCE, their city-states fell to Rome, their ports abandoned. Sunken harbors off Greece hold anchors and pottery. What marked the end of their naval glory? China's Han Dynasty by 200 BCE expanded river navigation. Silk Road boats carried goods to the coast. By 200 CE, internal strife halted their progress. River silt preserves their craft. What halted this riverine expansion? South America's Moche by 100 CE mastered coastal trade along Peru. Their ceramics depict boats and sea gods. By 700 CE, El Niño floods ended their reign. Coastal ruins hold their legacy. What natural forces shaped their fate? The Pacific's final chapter.
By 1500 CE, Hawaiian outriggers thrived, their fish ponds a marvel. But by 1800 CE, Western diseases decimated them. Abandoned villages dot the islands.
What ended this island paradise?
The Norse faded by 1500 CE, their Greenland colonies gone.
Archaeological sites show abandoned longhouses. What sealed their northern fate? The Mediterranean's Romans by 100 BCE ruled the seas with galleys. By 400 CE, their empire fell, ports deserted.
Underwater finds tell their story.
What collapsed this maritime power? China's Tang by 700 CE revived river trade.
By 900 CE, rebellions ended it.
Riverbeds hold their boats. What turmoil sank this era? South America's Chimu by 1200 CE built canals along Peru's coast. By 1470 CE, the Inca conquered them. Ruins show their end. What conquest altered their course? As we reach the end of this 5-hour voyage,
we've sailed through the lives of ancient seafarers, Lapita, Norse, Minoans, Liangzhu, Chinchorro, Polynesians, Phoenicians, Shang, Valdivia, Maori, Greeks, Han, Moche, Romans, Tang, and Chimu. Their boats, tools and tales are lost, yet their echoes shape our world.
The deserts of ancient Arabia hold their own seafaring secrets. Around 1000 BCE, the Dilmun civilization thrived along the Persian Gulf, trading pearls and copper with Mesopotamia. Their boats, made from palm wood and reeds, navigated shallow waters, leaving behind seals and pottery. By 500 BCE, their ports silted up, fading into the sands. Coastal sites reveal abandoned docks, hinting at a once busy trade network. Temples dedicated to sea gods, carved with fish motifs, suggest a spiritual tie to the ocean.
Trade records on clay tablets mention voyages to distant Harappan ports, yet environmental changes and rival traders likely ended their dominance.
What silenced this maritime hub, and what treasures lie buried beneath the dunes?
Shifting to the Atlantic, the megalithic peoples of Brittany, France, around 3000 BCE launched early voyages. Their stone alignments at Karnak may mark navigational points, while dugout canoes found in bogs suggest short sea trips. These massive stones, some weighing over 300 tons, align with solstice sunrises, possibly guiding sailors.
By 2000 BCE, their culture waned, possibly due to climate shifts or overpopulation.
Shell mounds and fishing weights piled high along the coast tell of a diet rich in oysters and cod.
Burial sites with seashells indicate a reverence for the sea.
What drew these stone builders to the water, and why did their maritime efforts fade?
In the Indian Ocean, the Austronesian seafarers expanded by 1000 BCE, reaching Madagascar. Their outrigger canoes, built with lashed planks, carried bananas and chickens across vast distances. Linguistic traces link them to Southeast Asia, with words for sail and outrigger shared across islands. Their navigation relied on swell patterns and bird flights, a skill passed orally.
Yet by 500 CE, their early settlements dwindled, overtaken by later migrations from East Africa.
Coral reefs hold sunken hulls, their wooden frames encrusted with marine life.
Trade goods like obsidian suggest long-range contacts.
What challenges, storms, rivals, or resource scarcity ended their pioneer era? The Black Sea saw the Sumerians around 1000 BCE, herding and trading along its shores. Their hide boats, inferred from artifacts like leather scraps, supported a nomadic life. These vessels, lightweight and flexible, allowed quick escapes from enemies. By 600 BCE, Scythian invasions pushed them out, their campsites buried under soil.
Arrowheads and boat fragments found near river mouths suggest a fleeting maritime presence. Graves with fish bones indicate a diet tied to the sea.
What forced this tribe to retreat, and did their boats carry them to new lands? In Southeast Asia, the Sa Huyn culture emerged around 1000 BCE along Vietnam's coast. Their iron tools and glass beads indicate trade with China and India, with roots traced through maritime archaeology. Canoes reconstructed from site remains fished and traded spices, their hulls reinforced with bamboo. By 200 CE, they merged with other groups, their villages overgrown with jungle. Pottery shards and anchors scattered along beaches mark their maritime past. Burial jars with trade goods hint at a wealthy elite. What blended this culture into obscurity? War, disease, or assimilation? The Caribbean welcomed the Saladoid people around 500 BCE from South America. Their dugouts carried cassava and cotton to the Lesser Antilles, their prows adorned with carved faces. Petroglyphs and shell tools, etched into cave walls, show a seafaring society with rituals tied to the sea. But by 600 CE, they evolved into the Taino, their early sites abandoned as populations grew. Coastal middens stacked with conch shells hold their story. Canoe fragments suggest voyages up to 100 miles. What transformed this island life? New technologies or cultural shifts? Along Africa's Red Sea, the Puntites flourished around 2500 BCE, trading incense and myrrh with Egypt. Their ships, depicted in reliefs at Deir el-Bahri, sailed to modern Somalia, their hulls laden with exotic goods. By 1000 BCE, their ports faded, likely due to Egyptian decline and shifting monsoon patterns. Underwater caves yield amphorae and anchors, their bronze fittings corroded by salt. Trade logs mention elephant tusks and gold. What ended this aromatic trade? Economic collapse or environmental change? In the Arctic, the Thule people advanced by 1000 CE, mastering umiaks for whaling. Their migrations from Alaska to Greenland left bone tools and boat frames, crafted from walrus ivory. These vessels, covered with seal skins, carried families across ice floes. By 1500 CE, contact with Europeans disrupted them, their camps deserted as diseases spread. Ice preserves their artifacts, harpoons and sled runners. Trade networks with the Inuit suggest a vibrant exchange. What altered this frozen seafaring world, climate or conquest? The Persian Gulf's Ubaid people, around 5000 BCE, fished with reed boats. Their settlements along Kuwait's coast show early maritime skill, with nets woven from palm fiber. Mudbrick ruins and fish traps, preserved in dry sands, indicate a stable fishing community. By 4000 BCE, they shifted inland, possibly due to rising sea levels. Pottery with fish designs suggests a cultural focus on the sea. What changed their watery ways, land pressures or new technologies? In Japan, the Jomon people sailed by 3000 BCE using dugouts to gather shellfish. Shell mounds, some 10 meters high, mark their coastlines, filled with clam and oyster shells. Rope patterns on pottery reflect their weaving skills, possibly used for nets. Yet by 1000 BCE, their maritime focus faded with the arrival of Yayoi rice farmers. Coastal caves hold their tools, stone sinkers, and hooks. What shifted this island culture? Agricultural competition or population growth? The Pacific Northwest's ancient Chinook, around 2000 BCE, fished with cedar canoes. Their trade network stretched along the Columbia River, exchanging obsidian and salmon. Plank houses built near estuaries supported large families. But by 1000 CE, their villages waned with climate shifts, possibly warmer winters. Totem fragments carved with sea creatures tell their tale. Canoe burials suggest a spiritual bond with the water. What reshaped this riverine life? Drought or tribal conflicts? In the Baltic, the comb ceramic culture navigated by 4000 BCE with log boats. Their pottery, decorated with comb-like patterns and fishing gear, bone harpoons and lines, suggest a coastal existence. Lake beds, drained by archaeologists, preserve their craft some 6 meters long. By 2500 BCE, they merged with corded ware groups, their maritime focus diluted. Shell middens indicate a diet of herring and eel. What merged this early seafaring group? Trade or invasion? The Gulf of Mexico saw the Poverty Point people around 1500 BCE trading with dugouts. Their earthworks, stretching 1 kilometer, and microliths, tiny stone points, indicate a maritime reach to gather resources. But by 700 BCE, they declined, possibly due to soil exhaustion. Riverbanks hold their tools, net weights, and fish bones. Trade with the Ohio Valley suggests a wide network. What ended this trading network? Environmental stress or warfare? In the Aegean, the Cycladic people sailed by 3000 BCE, crafting marble idols for trade. Their boats, inferred from art on vases, linked islands with obsidian and emery. Frying pan-shaped artifacts may map constellations for navigation. But by 2000 BCE, they faded with the Minoan rise, their ports overtaken.
Sea caves yield their relics, tools, and figurines.
What overshadowed this island trade? Competition or natural disaster? The Indian coast's Harappan seafarers around 2500 BCE shipped cotton and beads. Their docks at Lothal with tidal locks show early ports handling ships up to 20 meters. But by 1900 BCE, they abandoned maritime life, possibly due to river shifts.
Harbor silt holds their legacy, weights and seals. Warehouses suggest a bustling trade.
What halted this coastal commerce? Floods or economic decline? The Red Sea's Axumites by 100 BCE traded ivory and spices.
Their ships built with sewn planks reached India.
By 700 CE, their ports declined with the rise of Islam. Coral reefs hold their wrecks.
What shifted this trade route?
The Arctic's Dorset culture by 500 BCE used kayaks for sealing.
By 1000 CE, they vanished, possibly outcompeted by the Thule.
Ice caves preserve their harpoons.
What ended this icy legacy? The Mediterranean's Etruscans by 700 BCE sailed with bronze ships.
By 200 BCE, Rome eclipsed them.
Seabeds hold their anchors.
What fated this maritime power?
China's Neolithic Hemudu by 5000 BCE fished with canoes. By 3000 BCE, they shifted to farming. River mud holds their nets.
What changed this aquatic life? South America's Marajora by 400 CE traded along the Amazon.
By 1300 CE, they declined.
Island mounds hold their pottery.
What ended this river trade?
The Pacific's Rapa Nui by 1200 CE sailed with reed boats.
By 1700 CE, they collapsed. Cave sites hold their tools.
What broke this island chain?
As the seas unfold, we trace the voyages of Dilmun, Brittany megaliths, Austronesians, Cimmerians, Sahuin, Saladoid, Puntites, Tula, Ubaid, Jomon, Chinook, Combe ceramic, Poverty Point, Cycladic, Harappan, Axumites, Dorset, Etruscans, Hemudu, Marajora, and Rapa Nui each wave a thread in the fabric of lost maritime history.